Great to see you there. Hopefully you're ready. We're doing NVMe upgrade on the HP Z840 workstation. So look at that. That's a whole lot of NVMEs. Okay, so going for 4 1TB NVMEs. We got a 4-part video there. Check that out. First things first, failure. Yeah, that's right. It does actually not work the first time I tried this. It's a bit of a surprise, but it's okay. We'll go through it. I'll show you what could go wrong, and then I'll show you how to actually do this. Let's have a look. So first things first, we've got the AORUS card slotted in on lane 6 on the HP Z840 workstation. Now these cards retail for around $150 US. You could probably get them a little bit cheaper if you are patient. There it is. Beautiful, beautiful card. Oh, what's that? Sorry, that definitely wasn't my doing. I picked this up secondhand, forgive me. Okay, sounds really good. Or maybe it sounds like money, I'm not sure. There it is. So what can we do with these kind of cards? Well, the key thing with these is that you're going to be able to run 4 NVMEs on a single PCIe Express lane. Why is that of relevance? Well, the main thing is sometimes you're a little short on slots. This gives you the opportunity to really make use of your full machine. Okay, so this is the failed installation. So what happened? Well, I was installing the 980s very nicely, as you can tell there. And no matter what I did, I could not get the HP Z840 to boot from the boot drive, which was also located in the AORUS. Now, a little bit of troubleshooting. I managed to get it to run when I had 3 NVMEs loaded, but as soon as I fit the 4th, it would not boot. Definitely check out those specs up on the far left there. Those will be the specs of the machine in its current state. So what on earth is going on with the NVMEs? Good question. I am still trying to figure it out myself. It's a little awkward. My key thing to note is we're putting in 4 NVMEs, so that's 2 of the Samsung 980s initially. And when I got those in, I still had a 970 Evo Plus, which was a 500 gigabyte. And you'll notice another one there, which is a 970 Evo Plus 256 gigabytes. So those are becoming a little bit redundant. A single video project could potentially be that file size, so really not very useful. So upgrading these and retained the 970. Now, the boot drive was the 500 gig 970 Evo Plus, and tried every single slot, but I could not get it to boot. Oh yeah, that's some good noise there. You can see the booting on the side there, kept going into a weird MAC address booting protocol, and no matter what I did in the BIOS, could not find a way to bypass that error or issue, and by the end of it, rather frustrated. So this is me putting it together, all hopeful that it's going to work beautifully, and that was meant to be the first video, but it just didn't work. So after about 10, I kid you not, 10 reboots, trying different things, moving cards around, the next logical thing that I had is, okay, do the 980s actually work in the HP Z840? There is a lot of different information out there, and as far as I can tell, they should work, but we'll have to do a little bit of investigation to figure out if they actually work in the HP Z840. So moving on to the next part here. So what do we got? Well, first things first, tools. This is the successful installation, by the way. I figured it out. Show you what we did. So first things first, make sure that bit fits perfectly. Those screws are rather delicate. You see it's actually quite hard to get a good fit. And key thing there is just to make sure you don't strip them. Definitely don't use power tools. That's not going to do any favors. So go for hand tools. Yes, that's me working at my optimal speed. Well done. Okay, so in terms of solving the boot problem, I wound up using a rather cheap adapter. Yes, it's not cool, kind of defeats the purpose of running the AORUS to begin with. But the key thing there was that I really had no other way of getting this machine to boot when I had my boot drive in the AORUS with 4 NVMEs. Key detail. Oh, beautiful notes there. Now a little bit of dust there, but overall that backplate's doing a lovely job of keeping everything together. So definitely keep an eye on that one. I haven't had any issues with installation or removal. So next, very important part, are these screws. So these screws are potentially the same Phillips head. You just want to be very careful as you go through again. They're very short, and I believe if you strip one of these, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. So take your time, be careful on these. Don't rush like I am here. It's okay, the footage was sped up, but you knew that. Now notice here the screw doesn't quite stick, so one little trick you could do is grab a magnet. That's a very strong ferrous magnet there, and just stroke your screwdriver, assuming it's a metal bit, which usually they are. You're able to do some polarization on that one, charge it up, and by the end of it, thank you, it gives you a really useful tool to make sure you don't drop any screws. Okay, so quickly running through, those are the 4 that retain the actual heatsink onto the PCB, so very important, those 4 screws. Here we go. Now, sometimes this removal is a little difficult, depends how long you've had those cards in there. They do bake on a little bit, so you need a gentle amount of force. So I usually just sort of pry it open a pinch. Let's see if I can show you the method there. So you just sort of gently apply some pressure, and it slowly releases. So there's no wires attached to the heatsink in this case, but still be gentle on that removal. Make sure those studs are all the way out of the PCB before you sort of do anything funny. Okay, so that's what I had in there. I actually had a Pacer 256 gig in there initially. That was actually the game library, but those are just becoming too small. Need to update to some larger NVMEs. So don't worry, they will live on in another machine. So in terms of these standoffs, pretty straightforward. Oh, there's a little bit of baked on grease there. Interesting. The joys of working these NVMEs. Okay, so at this point, you'll notice the 2 980s are already in, so I managed to get them to run. The key thing was moving the boot drive out of the AORUS into that adapter that I showed earlier. So at this point, we're just going to quickly remove. Hopefully it'll be a little bit clearer in terms of removal, but I'm certain you know how to remove NVMEs. So a little bit of gentle pressure. Again, they do bake on, so you just got to gently lift, and there it is. Okay, so keep an eye out for that M key on the NVMe, very important. Cannot fit anything else. So I'll just rest that up there for now. Okay, so now grabbing the new NVMe here, 980. Why'd I go for the 980? They're potentially not quite as grunty as the 970 Evo Plus or even the Evo Pro, but the price point is really affordable, so they're great value for money. In my situation, they're going to be working fairly hard. They're just going to be the storage library. Yeah, definitely grab something better. That screw doesn't help. Stanley knife, much better. So really tough trying to export your videos without something like NVMe. Hard disk drive just doesn't do the job. SSDs are okay, but they do have a bit of a performance bottleneck occasionally, depending on the drive. But generally, if you are able to get NVMEs for this purpose, absolutely go for it. The file transfer speeds improve productivity a substantial amount. Okay, there it is, nice and blurry. Blurry action, why not? So in terms of inserting these into that PCB, it's relatively straightforward. You just got to keep an eye out for the pin. They're quite clearly there. We got the slight gap off on the right hand side. Okay, that's installed. Now for our screw, thank goodness it's magnetic, otherwise you will lose them. If you do lose them, they're hard screws to track down. I forget the measurements. I'll have to put a little keynote up in case you do lose one of these. You can actually find them on eBay or equivalent sites. Okay, last one there, that's our 970. That was a 256 gig, mainly used for game storage libraries. Last one, it's the same detail, very important on these. Nothing beats the Stanley blade on these. I would say ASMR, but we didn't quite get enough audio coming through. That's okay. Now another key benefit of the NVMEs, and I guess it's kind of arguable as well, but they're really quick when it comes to general file transfers. They do have a bit of a shorter lifespan, so keep that in mind as well. If you are transferring a lot of really large files, it might be better, just might be better to go for the SSDs. But if you really are just using it primarily for things like video rendering, this is ideal. They may have a shorter lifespan, but I guess that's kind of the point. High speed and low endurance, and that's sort of a normal combination. Okay, here we go, final screw, that one's inserted. 980, that gives us 4 at 1 terabyte. Now you could potentially set these up for RAID. I haven't actually tried this myself, mainly because I need them as single 1 terabyte RAID 0 devices. Yeah, definite bit of oil on that one. It's okay, the joys of the heat pad. So in terms of the copper heat pad on the AORUS, it's actually really well designed. It's quite heavy, very solid block of copper, and you've got your heat transfer pad there as well. So the transfer pad does basically come out really soft. You got to be careful. You'll notice that one there's already got a couple of scuffs on it. That's quite difficult to avoid, but pretty much anything that touches them will cause a tear, so you've got to be really gentle. Now, while I pack these away, I think we're ready for the next phase. Now, what would we test these drives on? That's the real question. Well, the most appropriate test I could think of is the encoding of this exact video. Now, can you imagine the stress the computer would go under while rendering the video and also then recording in 4K this particular footage? This is going to be a fun one. Keep an eye out. Now, I have sped up the footage to try and minimize your viewer discomfort. So see how we go with that. Okay, there they are. 4 NVMEs, 1 terabyte each. Let's see if we can get this thing reassembled and maybe do a few random B-rolls while we're here. So really well designed little PCB there. You can see the fans positioning, and there are a few variants of these as well, so it really depends on the model that you have obtained. Yeah, nice B-roll there. Beautiful. So in terms of servicing, I think there'll be a little bit of dust in there depending how many hours this machine works, so you may want to consider every once in a while giving this thing a good blowout with some compressed air. It does help to maintain its performance, and so far I haven't had any issues. Had this one for about 2 years now, and it has worked really hard in that time, so very impressed with the performance. There is one equivalent card that I'd like to try. It's the ASUS Hyper, but I haven't got around to obtaining one of those yet. I'm sure at some point it may well be needed. Okay, let's get this cover back on. You can see the nice cutout there. Yeah, that does sound good. Okay, let's do this. It's important here, making sure the standoffs, so the little copper standoffs go through the PCB. They only fit one way around, so make sure you get those the right way, and you'll see them sitting there. Now, ideally, you want to do this on a flat surface. The back cover of the Z840 is a great, I guess, cinematic location, but probably not the most appropriate place to be doing this, but it does give us a nice view. So key thing with those standoffs, they're incredibly short screws, which means you have to be quite gentle, and truth be told, that fitment there probably wasn't ideal. You really want to support the bottom of that screw to make sure that you're getting a good seal, and that's looking okay. We'll lift it up, be careful again, and you'll notice I'm going to check the tension on these just to make sure they grabbed hold and that we do have a nice fit. Now hopefully you never run into problems with these screws. If you are gentle, you should never strip any of them. If you do run into that problem, there probably is a way to replace those standoffs, so don't fret, there will be a way around it. Okay, so in terms of fitting the backplate, it'll actually slot into position, there it is, once you have everything in place. So just feel it around a little bit. Oh, that's very magnetic there, that's okay. Excellent, just what you want. Can't lose a screw if they're magnetic. Here we go. So same process for refitment, just make sure you do these by hand, take your time, make sure they're threaded in properly before you apply too much force. They should go in without any resistance. It's me working at my optimal speed there, beautiful. Hopefully you can keep up. Okay, there it goes, final one. That was quick, mere seconds, excellent. So you'll notice the crisscross pattern. I do recommend doing a crisscross pattern for probably all computer hardware, just to make sure the tension is spread evenly and consistently. Same process we use on building car engines. Lovely. Okay, there it is, all reassembled. You'll notice a nice little bit of leeway between the PCB backplate and the PCB itself. Very sleek design. Yes, let's do that B-roll. That does look good. Still bummed about the damage, but you can't always help it. Still got this for a really good price on a used second-hand, should we say, marketplace. Okay, there it is. Now, let's round this off. So, very important, nice and neat, put those tools away so you can use them again in the future. Probably going to be quite easy to use practically any small screwdriver set, so that's quite a nice A relatively affordable set there, very easy to obtain. Lots of screwdriver bits that are of small sizes. Okay, that's awesome. Let's jump into the next part. So while I do a little bit of tidy up, oh, did I throw those? Maybe I did. You'll never know. Okay, let's jump into our next section here. Oh, that's pretty blurry there. Okay, so fitment of the card. Where would you slot this? Well, because this is actually a 16 times, you do want to optimize it for maximum speed. And in fact, you probably want to make sure you got that, well, sorted or settled before you buy the card. But the key detail here is that you do actually need bifurcation on your motherboard to be able to use it. And I do believe the guy that I got this off actually didn't have this ability on his motherboard, or at least not on the PCI slot that he had to fit it in. That's another problem. So make sure your motherboard's compatible. You want bifurcation on your slot where this card's going to go. And it does need to be a 16 times slot if you want to run 4 at max speed at least. Okay, CPU fan shroud going back in. Very tight fit in there at the moment. We've got the RTX 3080. Check out the installation of that if you are interested. Okay, there it is, all sorted. Now let's do some testing. Ah, beautiful. So very, very tightly packed there. You'll notice the boot drive actually creeping away right up top. That'll be PCI lane number 1 in the Z840. Okay, beautiful, beautiful combination there. Very well stacked. Now you'll notice the CPU fans on the top right there. That's actually really close to that GPU, so pretty tight tolerance. One of the CPUs does run a little bit warm as a result. But overall, that's a really tidy machine. Okay, beautiful, beautiful colors there. Okay, let's do this. Covers on. You know when the covers come on, something serious is about to happen. Is that the way that works? Okay, let's jump on to some testing. A little bit of a wire tuck needed there. Those wires are problematic. Just make sure you don't pinch any wires. That could cause a bit of sparks, potentially. Okay, there it is. Done. Almost too easy. Okay, now let's put this thing to the test. So there's that NVMe. Let's really put this to the test. Okay, so the most appropriate way of doing a test for the Samsung 980 NVMe is going to be Davinci Resolve Studio. Let's really see what it can do. So right now, trying to render the original video, or at least the first draft of this video. So some of the settings are displayed there. Have a quick look. Quick time was our format. 4K Ultra, nearly 60 frames, and recording some of the computer specifications. Generally, it handled that quite well. Not bad at all. 211 gigabyte of RAM in use. That's pretty heavy. GPU maxed out. Now for this bit here, you'll notice we have our NVMe installation troubleshooting. So I did a few tests. 3 NVMEs and the AORUS worked fine. I could boot from Windows, no troubles. As soon as I fit 4, I could not get it to boot no matter what I did in the BIOS or what slots I used. So likely it's a bug. I even tried a BIOS update on a Z840 and that still didn't resolve this problem. Okay, let's have a quick look. Troubleshooting bifurcation on the HP Z840. So you're fairly limited on the lanes that are able to run this card. So have a look there. Lane 2, 4, and 6 are the optimal lanes, at least for 4 NVMEs running at full speed. So keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out why it's not running. So lane 1 and lane 7 are absolutely not compatible. They will definitely not run this card. So definitely take a look at that. Very important. Okay, doing some quick benching. Speeds were good for both drives. However, the temperatures were not great. For the 970, I saw temperatures of up to 95 degrees Celsius. That's melting. Definitely go for the AORUS, 60 degrees or thereabouts, max 10. Not bad.
Fatality.
So how do we solve this elevated temperature? Well, there is only one way. Yes, that's it there. Although you have to wait until the next episode to see this one. So we've got a nice fan-controlled NVMe adapter, and it's totally going to knock this one out of the park. But stay tuned, we'll release that one in a future video. It's taken a while. Okay, so take note, in terms of the editing, we're doing all of this on Davinci Resolve Studio 17, and that was the beast that was doing this work, the RTX 3080. Oh dear, this wasn't meant to be here. let's call it bonus footage. So right now, trying to install a HP Z840 motherboard into a rather cool looking case. But we'll cut the footage there, you're not supposed to see this yet. Stay tuned, you'll see that in a future video.